People who floss their teeth earn more than those that don't, so governments should provide universal access to dental floss. This thought is a mix of a few things. It's this, first of all, the erroneous examples. There's this one website I think that just goes by and just points out like different things. It's like number of Nicolas Cage movies versus plane crashes in a year. And then there's like some kind of like correlation. Just like correlation does not imply causation, where it's like these random things like pints of ice cream eaten in a certain area compared to females born in that same amount of time, like 9 months later. There's all these things you can find where you just put two random things together and then say, yeah, this is the cause of that. So if these are correlated, then does that mean it's a cause and we should actually encourage this? And then the other aspect of this is just the government. People expecting the government, the state, to supply certain things in order to achieve certain results. And in many cases, this is from that first thing, correlation does not imply causation, of people falsely and erroneously contributing certain results to certain causal things. For this one, I think a good example to use is tuition-free higher education. They're talking about post-12th grade, we're talking about college, university, and things like this. Because people say, oh, look, people who have degrees seem to earn more, so we need a situation where the government is providing universal access for people to actually get into university. Now, to an extent, this is done by most developed countries, and developing countries are starting to do it. In the United States of America, for example, they have that FAFSA program, which is, what is it? Free application for federal student aid. Now this one, they also have a system of community colleges? Yeah, community colleges where you can also go in-state. If you qualify for a university or college in your state, it's normally something like at least 25% less than if it's out of your state. And then community colleges themselves are in general almost free. They're paid through taxation. You don't necessarily have to pay that much tuition ahead of time. Then you can transfer them to the other four-year institutions, which are normally public or private, and things like that. So there's different ways. You look at Europe, they have different programs to this. These are tax-funded things in different ways. But now that you have this access, it's still now up to the students to eventually pay back some of this tuition or to actually go in and look and see, like, can I actually earn from this if I'm taking on this debt and things like that. So at that time, you have access. Universal access to something is different than saying it should just be provided to the person. But there is a false assumption here. Were degrees themselves the signifier of somebody having an education? No, I think it was harder to get into university in the past, in some places, in most places. So it was already a sign of somebody being more capable at doing something in order to do that. A lot of the most wealthy people in the world today, most wealthy and famous people, did not complete their university degrees because their undergraduate degrees, I mean. Because they often found other things to actually do. A lot of successful athletes, a lot of successful celebrities and things like this. Because you find something else to do. This is just a process. So some of the people will go, and then they even had this process of honorary degrees. We see people just getting honorary degrees for achievements they've made outside of being in the university. Oh, this guy's an honorary degree from this place. So this whole idea, I don't understand where it necessarily comes from. But just having the degree itself, just giving somebody the degree itself isn't the actual signifier. In some other cases, people were already from wealthy families, well-to-do families, and they had the free time to go in and research some things where they're not like, I'm not necessarily going to be directly earning from this, but I have the money and I have the interest, and this might slowly but surely help in some kind of way, even if it's just like a small group of people. So I'm actually going to get this degree. And then you also look at that person and it's like, oh, they also come from a wealthy family, but they had that wealth in different ways. So credentialism is a whole different thing from actual education and actually obtaining an education. You can obtain an education and information in ways that don't involve actually going to school. So my argument here, or my thought here, is this whole idea of just saying that. Because I can guarantee you, you go to a place where there's grocery stores, pharmacies, supermarkets, where you pretty much have access to buy the stuff. And you have access to toothpaste, toothbrushes, dental floss. We all have that same kind of, if you listen to this, you're living in this situation probably, where you have the access to information of what you're supposed to do, what flossing does, and all these. The people who actually have access to that information and then go further, to actually make some actual dispensations in their budget in order to ensure that they actually have money to actually get dental floss and then actually put the time in daily or other times to actually floss, that is a signifier of other practices in their life that will lead to them most likely earning more, or at least having a more financially stable life. It's not directly related to the dental floss. I can't just all of a sudden take dental floss and just make sure everybody in Bangladesh has dental floss, and then all of a sudden that community will make the same amount as all the people who floss in somewhere like Seattle. It's not going to happen. There's many other things that are around these things. So that's just what I'm saying. When you go with these erroneous things where you just say, oh, just because these group of people have this one thing, then that's also related to this other thing that this group of people have. That's wrong. That's going to lead to many mistakes. And I think you get this. Most people get this because people will look at certain negative things and say, oh, just because this group of people who you consider negative happen to share this other thing, that's unrelated to this negative thing. But when it comes to the positives, they'll point out, oh, those group of people have this positive thing, and then they should do this. One of the few things where I think it's actually closer to relations of this, and this is a topic I do speak about a lot, but it has been shown that if you come from a one-parent household, it is just a general thing. If one parent is good, then isn't two parents better? I mean, in general. So anyway, but you actually look at the figures. You look at the negative actual effects, the handicaps some people seem to have from coming from one-parent households. And then you say, okay, people who seem to come from two-parent households, happy two-parent households, seem to earn a lot more money than the people who come from single-parent households. So should we say the government should provide universal access to spouses and make sure like you can't have a kid, like make it illegal to have a kid unless you have a happy spouse already? Or if you feel like you have a kid, you should be able to apply somewhere and then actually have that direct access to a spouse so you can have a good environment for your kid and then have your kid be wealthier? Is that a thing that they're going to do? No, that's not a thing people are demanding because people are hypocritical and they don't really mean what they mean. People literally mean things figuratively. And it's a bit frustrating. Part of my shorty series where I expand on short thoughts that sometimes turn into rambles that are not completely related to the actual thought, but I try to keep it as related as possible, and I enjoy engaging you in the comment sections when I actually post these, and also the comment sections of the videos. So like, share, subscribe, comment, links to my merchandise store below, and also appreciate you taking your time. I think that's it. Till next time, goodbye.